This happened Thanksgiving week of 2021, when I was 21 and still figuring out how to handle myself at work. I was a hostess at one of those chain restaurants off the highway in Nashville. Sticky menus, screaming birthday songs, and a lobby packed with people demanding to know why their name wasn't on the list. My shifts were basically seating families, wiping down booths, and pretending I knew the regulars' drink orders. Brian, my manager, was the fun boss. Customers loved him, corporate loved him, staff tolerated him. He called us kiddo and rock star, always with this grin that felt rehearsed. Thanksgiving week was the busiest I'd ever seen it. Travelers, families who didn't want to cook. The place was a zoo. I'd been on a double, and by the time we locked the doors, I felt like I was moving on autopilot. As we were closing, Brian hovered around the host's stand more than usual. "You did amazing tonight," he said. "You staying late?" I laughed it off. Compliments from him always felt like a quiz I couldn't study for. When side work wrapped up, he told everyone else they could clock out, then turned to me. "Hey, want to help me count receipts in the office? Good experience if you want to move up." It sounded like a chance to prove myself, and I didn't want to seem rude or paranoid, so I said sure. The restaurant emptied fast. The music dropped. Dishwashers shut everything down. Lights dimmed. I followed Brian to the back hall where it always smelled like old fryer oil and the walk-in cooler. He stepped into the office first. When I crossed the threshold, I heard the door click shut behind me. A tiny, precise sound. I pretended I didn't notice. The office was cramped. Desks stacked with receipts, 2 monitors showing grainy camera feeds, the safe bolted to the floor. Brian moved around like he'd done this routine 1,000 times. "So," he said, "this is where the magic happens." He started showing me bundles of slips, how they matched to cash drawers. Talking too close. His arm brushed mine every time he reached for something. I kept inching away without making it obvious. After a minute, something felt off in my stomach. You know, the sense that something wasn't right. I casually reached for the door handle. "I'll grab some pens up front." It didn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. Brian didn't even look at me. He was busy sliding his hand deeper into his pocket where I'd seen the key earlier. "Oh, don't worry about that," he said. "It's peaceful when it's just us back here. No customers. No noise." My throat felt small. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't make me sound dramatic, or ungrateful, or stupid. He stepped between me and the door and kept talking about loyalty and team players, like this was some private mentoring moment. "You know," he said, bending closer over the desk, "I always look out for the ones who go above and beyond." I laughed weakly. The room felt too small. His body blocking the only exit felt like a choice, not an accident. He kept on with that slow, friendly tone. "It's nice to have someone who doesn't mind staying late." He took one more step toward me. Before I had to respond, there was a sudden knock on the door. 3 sharp hits that made the frame shake. "Brian?" a voice called. "You still in there?" It was Josh, one of the servers I liked. Before Brian could say anything, Josh kept knocking. "Faster now." "I need my bag. I saw you go in." Brian's smile slipped. Not totally gone, but bending at the edges. He let out this annoyed exhale through his nose, then pulled the key from his pocket and unlocked the door. Josh was standing there staring straight at the hand Brian had just removed from his pocket. Then at me. Then back at him. "Sorry," Josh said, not sounding sorry at all. "Thought she already left. I need her to help me up front real quick." He didn't wait for permission. He just stepped aside so I could leave. I went. We walked back to the lobby where nothing actually needed my help. Josh bent down, grabbed his bag, the only thing he'd come for, and whispered, "You good?" Yeah, I said. "Why did you?" "I saw him close the door with the key in his hand," he said. "He never does that when it's guys." We didn't talk about it any more than that. I finished my shift with this awful buzzing in my chest that didn't stop until hours later when I was home and showered. I didn't report it right away. I kept telling myself I might be overreacting, that nothing technically happened. but the image of his hand pushing the key deeper into his pocket wouldn't leave me. A few days later, I got HR's number from another manager. My voice shook when I explained what happened. They did the whole corporate routine. We take these concerns very seriously. They interviewed me, Josh, a few others. One morning we came in and were told Brian had been transferred to another location. That was the word they used. Not fired, not written up. Transferred. No one ever told me what he said in his interview, or whether they found anything else, or if the next store knew what they were getting. I quit a month later. No drama. Just quietly removed myself. Now, 4 years later, whenever a boss says, "Can you stay a few minutes after close?" every muscle in my body tightens before I can stop it. I think of that tiny room, the dead air, the locked door behind me, and Brian's hand sliding the key into his pocket like he'd done it before. I've worked at a lot of restaurants, but this one in Tampa easily wins most likely place to accidentally die. The dinner rush alone feels like combat. Ticket printers screaming nonstop, fryers roaring like jet engines, servers yelling, "Corner," even when there is no corner. I'm the line cook who basically lives between the flat top and the expo window. Sweat, fryer oil, and nicotine. Those are my 3 food groups at this point. The only real break I get is stepping out the back door for a smoke. It's just a narrow alley, a beat-up dumpster, and a single yellow light that makes everything look like a scene from Unsolved Mysteries. That alley was my calm spot until all this happened. It started on a random Monday. Not busy, just the usual sad music playlist and a handful of customers who don't believe in tipping. I finished the last ticket, wiped down my station, grabbed my pack, and pushed through the heavy metal back door. Normally, it slams hard behind you. This time, it swung halfway, bumped like it hit something, then slowly drifted almost closed. I looked back, expecting someone to be there. Nothing, just the open door showing a slice of kitchen light. I lit my cigarette, leaned against the wall, and tried to zone out, but the door kept shifting. A soft metallic tink every time I turned away, like someone nudging it with their foot, then stepping back. I went inside and joked to Miguel, the dishwasher, that the place was haunted. Miguel stared at me like I just told him the fryer was on fire again and kept scrubbing pans. Over the next few days, the same thing happened. I'd step outside and the door would move just enough to make noise, but only when my back was turned. Wednesday night, I tried catching whoever was messing with me. I stepped out, leaned against the wall like usual, and waited. Tink. I spun around fast. Nothing. No employee, no prank. Just the door barely cracked and the glow from the prep lights inside. I tried to reason it out. Bad hinges, pressure from the AC vents, kitchen gods punishing me for microwaving my staff meal. Something logical. But after a week of this, it stopped feeling like a draft. One night, I caught something, just for a split second. A silhouette, not fully visible, just enough to block part of the kitchen light. A shape standing in the doorway. By the time I looked properly, it was gone. Door hanging ajar, kitchen empty. I told the manager, Jenna, that someone kept messing with the back door. She didn't look impressed. If you've got time to be outside long enough to notice things, you're on too long of a break. Classic restaurant management wisdom. A few days later, somebody tagged our dumpster with graffiti. Corporate hates graffiti more than they hate giving raises. So Jenna pulled security footage to see who tagged it. We all crowded into the tiny office to watch. It was the usual terrible black and white footage. The dumpster and the alley. We watched a drunk guy spray paint it around 3 a.m. But when she rewound to earlier in the night, I saw myself walk out for a smoke, with my posture that makes me look like I'm 80 years old. Then the door opened again, and a man stepped into the doorway. Not out into the alley, into the building. He was already inside. Hood up, chin tucked so the camera didn't catch his face, and he was staring directly at me. Or my back, technically. I wasn't even moving much, just scrolling on my phone. Totally clueless. The man didn't budge. He just stood there inside the frame, still as a statue. And then, on the footage, you could see me start to shift like I was about to look over my shoulder. Right then, the man took one slow step backward and let the door ease toward closing, slipping out of sight just in time. I turned around in the footage a second too late, saw nothing, and went back to smoking. It played again, then again. Same exact pattern, different nights. Same man, same doorway. Always stepping back the moment I began to move. "I thought you said this place was haunted," Jenna muttered. For once, I didn't have a joke. We called the cops. A patrol officer came by, watched the footage, and shook his head. Resolution's too low to ID him. No face, no plate, no vehicle. Could have been anyone. What he didn't say, but definitely thought, good luck with that. Corporate responded instantly, though. Back door must remain locked during business hours. All staff breaks to be taken at front entrance. I wanted to complain, but after seeing that footage, I just shut up and complied. It wasn't losing my smoke spot that got to me. It was this one freeze frame Jenna paused on. My back turned, a cigarette raised halfway to my mouth, and in the doorway behind me, a stranger standing just inside the kitchen, almost close enough to reach out, like he was waiting for the right second to step forward. He never did, but he easily could have. I still work in restaurants. Different place now, better pay, nicer staff, fewer gremlins on the line. But I can't shake that image. Anytime a back door is cracked open, I check it twice. Anytime I take a break, I stand where I can see every entrance. I never put my back to a doorway, not even at home. Because it turns out the scariest part wasn't just that someone was watching me. It was realizing he'd been inside the building the whole time. And the only reason I never saw him was because he didn't want me to. I'd been managing that restaurant so long, I honestly thought nothing could surprise me anymore. We were downtown Sacramento, in one of those old brick buildings people call historic, because they haven't had to fix anything inside it. High ceilings, exposed beams, old bulbs, the whole trendy but tired vibe. Most nights followed the same routine. Last table out, staff meal, side work, lockup, alarm, home. I wasn't scared of the building. I was just tired of it. Then the footsteps started. It was a Tuesday night, slow enough that the cooks cleaned early. I was checking the prep list when I heard it. Soft creaks right above the kitchen line. It wasn't the usual old building pops. Footsteps, slow, pacing. Except above the kitchen, we had nothing. No loft, no offices, no attic. Just rafters and a thin layer of insulation. "Diego," I said, "you hearing that?" He shrugged like it was the most normal thing in the world. Place is old. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I wanted to be tired. I let it go. For one night. The next night, around closing, the footsteps came again. Same spot. Then a faint scuff, like a shoe sliding across dusty wood. A few grains of gray grit fell onto the prep table beneath a hairline crack in the ceiling panel. That stopped me cold. I grabbed a step stool, pushed the panel, solid. No movement, no obvious hatch. Still, the timing felt too exact to ignore. Sound, then dust. I told myself to breathe and get back to payroll. It didn't work. Things got strange fast. A bartender the next morning, "Hey, my jacket smells like someone else wore it." She'd left it on the hooks near the walk-in. She swore she hadn't lent it out. It smelled like someone sweaty had been wearing it for hours. I played it cool, blamed it on misplacement, but a little warning light flipped on inside me. Then I checked our alarm logs. Motion alerts. Kitchen area. Between 3 and 5 a.m. on 3 different nights with no overnight cleaning, no staff scheduled. I felt a tight pinch in my gut. One weird coincidence? Sure. 3? Not a chance. That night, I listened again after close. Footsteps directly overhead, and for the first time, I felt watched. I finally told the building owner. He waved it off. Old place, maybe raccoons, maybe pipes. Raccoons don't wear shoes, I said. He sighed and said he'd send maintenance. One guy, Rob, with a ladder and patience thinner than ours. He showed up on a quiet afternoon and I pointed him to the ceiling panel. Up close, the edges looked tampered with. Paint cracked in a neat outline, like someone had opened it recently. Yeah, Rob said, that panel's been moved. He wedged in a flat bar. The panel came loose with a heavy cough of dust, dropping insulation and stale warm air into the kitchen. We pointed our lights upward. What we saw shouldn't have been there. A crawl space. Not big, maybe 3 feet tall, but long, running the length of the kitchen like a secret hallway. Inside, blankets pressed into the shape of a body, food wrappers, 2 men's shirts, a duffel bag-shaped dust outline, but no bag. And worst of all, a bent vent grill overlooking the entire kitchen, bent outward like someone had pulled it just wide enough to watch through. I pictured myself counting cash directly below that vent, staff changing shirts under it, servers chatting about their personal lives, me walking the line alone at 2 a.m., all while someone lay 2 feet above us, listening. Rob's voice sounded distant when he said, "We should probably call the cops." 2 patrol officers arrived, then a detective. They climbed the ladder, looked around with their flashlights. No ID, no wallet, no phone, nothing that could identify whoever lived up there. Whatever mattered, money, bag, personal stuff, was gone, which meant one of 2 things. He left recently, or he'd come back between shifts. Neither made me feel better. The detective asked if anyone on staff lived out of their car, had disappeared suddenly, or acted strange. I thought through every name. Sure, restaurant turnover was constant, but nobody fit. They told us they'd file a report and keep patrol cars swinging by at night. Then they left. The crawl space stayed above us, dark and now much, much louder in my mind. The owner replaced the locks for the whole building. Maintenance resealed the hatch with screws, metal plates, and a sensor that would alarm if it moved even a centimeter. For a few days, everyone tried to joke about it. Our ceiling roommate, rent-free tenant, guy upstairs probably ate better than we do. But every night during close, I'd see someone look upward. People didn't linger alone in the kitchen anymore. Even the loudest cooks walked in groups to their cars. I wasn't any better. One night, after we finished up, I stood alone under the patched ceiling, the kitchen dark except for the glow of the exit sign, and felt this tightness in my chest. Because now I knew what had been above me during all those late nights. Someone lying flat in the crawl space, staring down at the kitchen, memorizing who stayed late, who walked out alone, who moved predictably. Someone who could have climbed down the moment we stepped outside. Someone who'd been close enough to touch, and I never even heard them breathe. I've managed other restaurants since then. Newer buildings, better alarms, fewer shadows. Doesn't matter. Now, every time I walk through a kitchen late at night, I automatically scan the vents, the ceiling panels, any crack that looks a little too clean, any dust pattern that looks disturbed, any place someone could hide and watch. Because once you've found a stranger's bed above your kitchen, blankets still warm, vent bent outward, footsteps echoing in your memory, you stop assuming you're ever truly alone in a closed building, and you never ignore a sound above your head again. I always joke that at our little family-owned restaurant in Kansas City, I wasn't really a dishwasher. I was back of the back. If something needed hauling, scrubbing, or digging out of the walk-in, it landed on my list. And honestly, I didn't mind. Nobody expected me to smile or upsell anything. I just had to keep the dishes moving. Thanksgiving week, though, was another world. Turkey specials, giant trays of sides, nonstop families coming in. The kitchen was a war zone. Gravy sizzles, fryer screams, cooks swearing like it was punctuation. By the time closing hit on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, most of the staff had bailed early, completely fried from the rush. except me and Mark. Mark was our manager, the kind of guy who called everyone buddy, disappeared into his office during rush, and magically reappeared when things were calm so he could look busy. He always said, "I'm right here if you need anything," but that door shut real quick after he said it. That night, he wandered through the kitchen once, pretending to check something. "You about done back here, man?" he asked. "Just trash and the freezer run." "Cool. Hey, grab one more crate of fries before you head out. We used more than I thought. I'll be in the office finishing paperwork." And just like that, he vanished. By midnight, it was dead quiet. I hauled the trash out, wiped down the last few pans, and pushed the squeaky-wheeled cart toward the walk-in freezer. The latch on that freezer had history. Everyone joked about it. "Don't get stuck in there. We don't have enough sauce for a U-flavored special." I laughed every time. But once that door shut behind me, it stopped being funny. I pulled it open, stepped into the cold, grabbed the crate of fries from the back, and as I turned, the door swung shut. A heavy thunk. The latch clicked. That sound hit harder than I expected. The cold bit instantly. I set the crate down and went straight for the inside release handle. I pulled. Didn't move. I tried again. Nothing. It felt jammed or stripped inside. I slapped the door. "Hey, Mark, I'm in here." No answer. My voice just disappeared in the freezer, like the walls soaked it up. My phone was in my locker. I'd left it there so it wouldn't get wet near the sinks. I hit the door again. "Mark." Silence. I told myself it was fine. His car was still outside. He had to be here. But every second felt like it was taking forever. My fingertips were already stiff. I started pacing. 10 steps one way, 10 steps back, counting out loud just to hear something human. Every few sets, I went back to the door, banged on it, yelled, then paced again. My breath fogged thick in front of me. My hands burned from touching the metal shelves. I kept replaying the night. Who'd left when? What time I'd last seen another human? Why Mark suddenly needed fries stocked after everyone was gone? And why he hadn't answered a single shout? A part of me, the part I didn't want to listen to, whispered that he wasn't coming. At some point, my voice went hoarse. My pacing turned sloppy. My legs felt heavy. I leaned my forehead against the door and tried one more time. "Anybody out there?" At first, nothing. Then, bang, 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 from the other side. I jerked back. A muffled shout. "Step away from the door, we've got you!" Not Mark. A cop. They hit the latch hard, and then the door swung open, spilling warm air into the freezer. 2 officers stood there, one already taking off his jacket to wrap around me. "Sit down," he ordered, pointing at an upside-down milk crate. "You need to warm up slowly." My legs barely worked, but I sat. They checked my hands, asked my name, how long I'd been in there, whether I felt sick. I tried answering. My jaw shook too much at first. "How'd you know I was in there?" I finally got out. One officer gestured outside. "Patrol noticed your building was dark except for a faint glow in the back. It looked off. When we checked the doors, they were locked, but one car was still in the lot." He pointed. "Yours?" I nodded. "Yeah." They said they ran the plates, knocked at the front, circled back, and heard faint banging near the freezer. Mark, however, nowhere. His office lights were off. No jacket, no keys, no half-finished paperwork, just a coffee cup and a pushed-in chair like he'd left normally. The owner showed up 10 minutes later, hair a mess, talking fast. "Must have been the latch. We've been meaning to fix it. Mark probably forgot you were still in there. It's just a misunderstanding." It didn't add up. Why did he walk off right after telling me to grab fries? The owner paid me cash for a few days off and said he'd handle the situation internally. 2 days later, we got an email from Mark saying he was moving on to other opportunities. That was it. No apology. No explanation. I went back for one more shift, long enough to hand in my apron and clear my locker. Nobody said much. The owner avoided eye contact. The cooks acted like nothing happened. I didn't accuse anyone, not officially. But in my head, I kept thinking about the fact that only a random patrol officer, not my manager, opened that freezer. I left the restaurant world for a bit after that. Needed distance, needed time. Now, I never step into a walk-in unless someone is within sight. I keep my phone in my pocket, even if it gets covered in soap and steam. I test every latch 3 times, then again when I leave. And whenever people laugh about freezer scenes in movies, someone trapped, pounding, screaming, I don't laugh with them. Because I can still hear my fists hitting that metal door, echoing back at me, with nobody on the other side except a cop who happened to drive by. And someone who definitely should have heard me, but didn't answer. Friday nights at the restaurant always ran the same way. Phones ringing nonstop, printers spitting tickets like they were offended, drivers tossing insulated bags around like we were loading airplanes instead of Toyotas. I actually liked it. Driving around with the windows cracked, music low, warm food in the passenger seat was better than most jobs I'd had. People rarely yelled at the guy bringing pizza. That night, Louisville was stuck in this annoying cold drizzle. Not real rain, just enough to make your hoodie stay damp forever. We were past the dinner rush, but not quite at the late night wave yet. The make line was finally slowing when the printer chirped again. Large pepperoni, wings, cheesy bread, my manager read, sticking the ticket to the bag. Cash, apartment complex on the east side. Good tip if they're not lying. He handed it to me. You're up. I looked at the address, didn't recognize the building, but that happens. Grabbed the hot bag, napkins, and headed out into the drizzle. The complex was tucked behind a patch of half-dead trees right off a main road. 3 stories tall, beige siding that looked tired, and only a few windows lit. The hallway lights inside flickered every few seconds. As I pulled into the lot, I noticed someone standing at the main entrance. Just inside the glass door, a figure in a dark hoodie, head down, hands jammed in pockets. No buzzing me in, no waving, no phone glow. Just standing there like a guard. I sat in my car for a moment, probably the customer. Relax. I got out, hot bag under one arm, and headed toward the door. Before I reached it, the figure pulled the door open a crack. No greeting, no small talk, just a low, flat voice. 3B. Then they turned and started walking toward the stairs without waiting for a response. Okay, weird, but not unheard of. Some people treat drivers like vending machines. I followed, keeping a couple steps back. The 3rd floor smelled like old carpet and boiled something. There was one flickering bulb above 3B, making the whole hallway look like it was underwater. The hoodie figure stopped a few feet from the door and leaned on the opposite wall, still with their hands deep in their pockets. No key in hand. No, here, let me get that. They just nodded toward the door like I was supposed to handle the whole interaction myself. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked again, louder. Pizza for 3B. Still nothing. Behind me, the figure didn't move, didn't call out for anyone, just watched from a distance that felt intentional. Instinct kicked in. Delivery drivers get good at sensing weird vibes. Bad complexes, sketchy callers, addresses that don't feel right. I reached for the doorknob to knock again, and it turned. The door swung open, pitch black. No lamp, no TV glow, no soft hallway reflection, just an empty, hollow dark that sucked in the light. Hello? I called out, my voice echoed a little. I stayed in the doorway, leaning in just far enough to see the corners. Bare carpet, no furniture outlines, no moving shadows, nothing. An unlived-in emptiness. Behind me, the hoodie figure moved a little. Still silent. Yeah, I said quietly, more to myself than them. No chance I'm walking in there. I backed away. If you want the food, you can meet me in the light. I'm not going inside. The figure didn't react, didn't argue, didn't step forward. Just watched. That was worse than yelling. I'll mark it as no answer, I said, keeping my tone even. You can call the store if you need to. I gave the open door one more look. Still nothing, then turned toward the stairs. Halfway down, I heard footsteps above me. Just a few steps, then silence. I didn't look back. Some part of me really didn't want to. Outside, breathing felt easier. The drizzle actually felt refreshing after that hallway. I headed toward my car, digging for my keys. And then I stopped. The figure was standing next to my driver's side door, like they had teleported there. No stairwell door opening, no footsteps on the concrete, nothing. Just there. Hood still up, hands still in pockets. Staring. I stayed back, gripping the pizza bag. "You good?" I asked. No answer. Up close, I could see a little more. Smooth jawline, neutral expression, absolutely no tension in their body, like they were waiting for something or someone. I had two choices: walk right up to them and unlock my door, or improvise. So I pulled out my phone, hit the screen dramatically, and pressed it to my ear. "Hey," I said loudly. "Yeah, I'm at that weird complex now. You seeing me on the tracker?" I raised my eyes toward the building like I knew there was a camera on me. "Yep, we're both right here by my car. Should be clear on the security footage, right?" The figure moved their head, just slightly. Something about that tiny reaction made everything inside me tighten. "Okay," I continued into the dead phone. "I'll bring the order back." No answer at the door. I kept my voice upbeat, like I wasn't directing every word at the person standing 10 feet from me. For a long second, nothing moved. Then the figure turned, toward the dark side of the building. They disappeared around the corner without a sound. I didn't wait. I unlocked the car, jumped in, locked the doors, and reversed out so fast I nearly clipped a shrub. Back at the shop, my manager started to complain until he saw my face. "Empty apartment," I said. Door was unlocked, and someone was waiting for me the whole time. He didn't even need the rest. On my break, I called the property management number from the listing. "Hi, I delivered to 3B tonight. Just checking." The woman interrupted. "3B? Yeah. That unit's been vacant for months. No tenants. No showings tonight. Why?" My hand tightened around the phone. "No reason," I lied. "Just making sure we had the right address." She apologized for the confusion. I hung up. Then I just sat there in my car with the rain tapping the windshield, thinking about that voice saying 3B, about the silent watching, about the completely empty apartment, and about how the figure somehow made it to my car faster than I could walk down 2 flights of stairs. I don't take certain orders anymore. Big cash payments to half-dark complexes, vague instructions like, "Come inside, we'll meet you," anything that feels rehearsed. And now, when I pull up somewhere and I see someone already standing in the shadows by the entrance, I don't hop right out like before. I sit there with the engine running, lights on, doors locked, and I wait. I watch carefully, because sometimes the person waiting for you isn't waiting for pizza. If these stories reminded you how fast a normal workday can slide into something you can't explain or escape, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare, and tell me which moment you felt the most. And if you want to see what Thanksgiving looks like when things go truly wrong, click now to watch 4 scary Thanksgiving horror stories. Because some people don't come for dinner. They come for whoever answers the door. Or if you want to keep going, just stay right here. Another nightmare's about to roll. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.